especially when you saw them. Like, what were they thinking with those dinosaurs?
I know, right? And the cowboy hats as well. You never do cowboy and dinosaur on the same day.
Yeah, I mean, what were they thinking?
No rules. No.
Hey, Mark.
Hi.
Nice to LEC.
It's going well, I think. But I'm having a hard time figuring out what a good draft looks like. But I guess it doesn't really matter.
Oh, no, my sweet summer child. You simply cannot pick the wrong champions.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be considered a loser the entire time here.
Okay, so what am I supposed to do?
Just listen. What you decide to pick is crucial, but we can help you out. First up, you've got the staples, picks everyone goes for. The disabled champions, cannot pick them no matter how ridiculous they look.
And then the new kids. All the rage right now, people just can't get enough of them. The weirdos, these are the people your friend watches way too much LPL, keeps talking about, even though they haven't won a single game.
And finally, the OPs.
The OPs?
1311 royalty. If the LEC was scripted, they would be the main characters. You pick them every game or you are screwed.
That one on the left, that's Aphelios. He thinks he's really smart, but actually he's just overdramatic.
One time he said if he ever had to use red and purple together, he would literally die.
On the right is Jinx. She spends every day talking about auto-spacing and how killing both of her dads was an accident.
Ever since she got that Netflix show, she has been insufferable.
Lastly, Zeri, the Queen Bee. She's been kicked out of so many games, some people forgot she even went here.
I heard she got Blitzcranked Hook and still killed 5 people in the Austin Cave.
I hear she built full tank with Trinity Force and still did the most damage in the game.
She sounds like the most powerful one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna go talk to her.
Martin, no!
No.
Never count me out.
An ally has been slain.
Got him.
Mark.
This was actually my fourth final that I lose in a row. It's like all the stress that I have daily accumulating. Just the lack of experience and like how to handle pressure in general kind of cost us the final.
BDS 1 game away from their dreams.
Most of us took like 3 or 4 days break between spring and winter, and it's a very emotional split. So I think by the end we're all very emotionally tired.
They will smack down on SK.
None of us planned first half of the year to end up like it did, right?
Boy, find themselves eliminated out of groups.
You have to try hard for a couple of weeks, and if you don't, you are out anyway, and you are going to be watching all these teams play during playoffs, during Worlds, and you are just not part of them. You are not good enough to be there.
I saw a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but it was like always I had to search for it, always trying to find hope in the hopeless.
Fnatic will be eliminated in the group stage.
After losing to G2 at MSI, we felt very bad, of course. We're not the same team we were 1 month ago, so it just happens.
I think it felt kind of bittersweet beating them at MSI. They definitely felt beatable, you know, it felt like, okay, we could definitely have done it if we had just been a bit better.
Mad Lions want to claim the MSI spot for themselves.
What if I give up tomorrow and I say I don't want to play? Then it's going to be another 8C, and I will be like, this should be me. You just can't give up.
This summer split, we're going to come in strong, we're coming disciplined, we're going to win the whole thing again.
Can he make it for
If you don't try your hardest, what's the point?
If some players give up already in the team or that they feel like there is no hope, then there is for sure no hope.
Fnatic advance to group
Sometimes hope is all you have, but you need to have some aspect of it, some part of it to keep going, right? No matter what.
They claim their first win of spring.
Considering how much I've won in the past, it's not something I'm happy with, but being third is objectively not that horrible.
Mad Lions rip apart the hopes of Vitality.
Every split I try to make as much impact as I can on the team, and I'm gonna do the same again, and hopefully it will bring us to the top.
It's riskier to try and fail than it is to always say you didn't care enough.
If I didn't think I could win Worlds, I wouldn't actually be a pro player.
If we don't have hope, then there is no point trying.
Who wants a crown?
It's not like I look at them and say I can never get there.
Semi-Penta to keep the game going.
It's about giving it your hardest. It's just about knowing that you can do it, and it's about efficient work to make it there.
Sure, we will look bad sometimes. Sure, we will drop nukes. We will go 0-10 in some games. But it doesn't matter. We keep doing it because that's what we believe in.
Even if it means getting smacked at Worlds, who cares that I'm getting smacked at Worlds? I want to be the best top lane in the world, so I have to take the chance.
Giving up is very easy, right? I'll probably not be nowhere near as good in anything in love as I am right now, you know? And there's always stuff you can change or implement, but it's harder.
I want to be remembered as someone and not just be one more mediocre player.
None of the boring stuff, all of the fun stuff, and definitely some drama to boot. Welcome everyone to day one of the LEC 2023 Summit season, live from Berlin, Germany. It's the final split before the big season final, so this is the last opportunity for our teams to show up and secure those all-important championship points. I'm Frankie, and I'm joined by Reckless Goldborg and Dagda. Hello, boys.
Yeah, hello. Nice to be back.
Yeah, they've given me 3 of you. I don't understand how I've earned the trust or what I've done to deserve this, but I'm very excited. However, I'm slightly disappointed. Why are you so far away from me, Reckless?
I don't know. We even shared like a big moment before, me and Goldberg.
Yeah.
So it's
We've actually really had a good bonding experience this time around. Yeah.
Good bonding experience this time around, because this isn't your first desk together. So why was it so awkward last time?
Other. Don't worry about it. It keeps elevating.
Is that why you're meant to be slightly summery today, but you're kind of trying to be reckless
thought to myself,
with the look?
here's some bit of color that kind of contrasts with Dagda, and here's a bit of black that also works with reckless, and then we put me in the middle, and then boom, there you have it.
See, here's the thing. I thought that you were wearing black because you're mourning for Europe. Because MSI, it didn't go as we were hoping, with G2 and the Mad Lions getting eliminated early on. So we did speak to our players about what went wrong and how to improve for the future.
I feel like every year people start like saying things are like more like useless to some extent. Like I think it started with like solo queue is useless, right? Like that was the first thing. It used to be solo queue rank 1 is like super cool and like high elo is super important. Then solo queue became useless. Then people started saying scrims are useless. People were saying like, oh, scrims don't matter, scrim results don't matter, like the practice itself doesn't matter, right? Then the third thing, I think, was like, I don't know if you remember, but W was saying like spring is useless, and a lot of people started saying spring split is useless. Then MSI is useless. As a pro player, and as I said, my dream is to win Worlds, right? For me, the Worlds is by far the biggest tournament, but that doesn't mean that like summer is useless, doesn't mean spring is useless, doesn't mean MSI is useless, doesn't mean scrims is useless, doesn't mean solo queue is useless, because if you think all of those are useless, you will never actually win Worlds.
You are happy, you are achieving some really good money, like you have everything in life. So I think that's one of the main problems, that people just accept this mediocrity and they don't try to aim for more, and they are not pushing their limits every single day to, let's say, to be the best, because that's not in their minds. They are happy the way they are and they just want to keep being happy. Because aiming to be the best means you're not going to be that happy when you have to work after a loss, when you have to, after you get 0-6 in scrim, you have to rebuild these scrims and you have to try to get the most out of all of these games, when you have to go through many rough situations with your teammates. But yeah, you have to confront all of these situations that you only confront if you want to make your team the best. If you are fine with what you're doing, you don't need to confront it. You can just like let him go his way, you go your way, you're all both happy. So I would say that just people are not willing to go through this shit, because aiming to be the best, it has many good things, but it's also a bit of it's a pain. It's a big pain, and it's really hard.
I mean, to be honest, when I was in 2021, my LFL split and I got to Fnatic. So I went from Perma, ERL teams, scrims to LEC teams. You know, when I was so kind of a rookie and I didn't know what scrims were like in LEC, etc., I thought that it was like a whole another world. But when you get to LEC, you actually realize that it's actually the same I don't know if I can say bullshit,
Yeah.
but it's legit the same bullshit that happens in IRL scrims, you know. Like they're just teams that simply don't care about scrims, legit. Like they're just playing because they have to play. For example, even us BDS were not good on scrims.
If Europe is going to win Worlds, I think Europe has a shot to win Worlds. I think the difference between Asia and EU, at least in the last international tournament, was not skill. I think skill was definitely not the issue. Like we were even outplaying them, you know. And I think the biggest difference was how they were moving around the map. And I think that again comes through discipline, through really understanding how the game works. And I think what we need as a whole region is to take the practice way more serious.
There's so much to unpack there. I mean, Eliola saying accepting mediocrity. Do you think that's actually true for any of the teams in the LEC?
I think it's hard to say. Like, obviously, I don't know what happens behind the scenes. I definitely don't think there's players that are just like, oh, well, I'm going to throw it all away. But I definitely think there is a difference between players like Eliola, who you can see who like work incredibly hard, split in, split out, which is why he's, you know, top jungler at the moment, at least in my opinion. But I do agree a lot with people like Broken Blade at the end there, who are like, I don't really see the difference in Europe as a massive skill gap. I think the big one is just how they have an understanding of how to play the game. And in particular, when you look at like, say, the willingness to, hey, I will drop a wave here because I know I will lose X amount on this play, but we will gain double or if not triple that on the next play that we try and go towards. I think that's the big difference that we see a lot of the times with the Asian teams versus teams like EMEA or North America.
Yeah, I think we even saw that, right? Because even just if we only look at the West, right? Multiple times, we actually had times where we were ahead from laning phase. We find kills, we find solo kills, we find all of this, and then you get to the mid to late game, and suddenly doing the 5-man strat that was so prominent in terms of going for objectives suddenly isn't as good because teams are actually not taking a 4 versus 5, and they are actually willing to cross map and get better plays off. But yeah, we were talking a lot about this behind the scenes as well, and I know you have quite a thought process in terms of the stylistic as well there is with the champion specifically.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear BB speak about it now, because it's basically a conversation we had earlier, like a few hours ago, without knowing his video or his thoughts on it, and it's basically the same. Skill level wise, they are more than good enough, but when it comes to the team play, it feels like we just see the game on a more narrow way than the Asian teams. They are just more open to dropping a Drake, playing topside, or vice versa. Meanwhile, in EU, we have our style, our way, and if it doesn't work, there's no backup. That's it. That's the only thing we offer.
Well, you know what? Let's try and be positive, because enough about MSI and the past. Let's remind our fans about what's at stake here in the LEC in the near future. Across the next 6 weeks, we'll be playing the Summer Split, where we will crown the LEC Summer Champion. The Summer Champions will join the Winter Champion G2 Esports and the Spring Champion Mad Lions in the season finals, together with the remaining top 3 in championship points. In the event G2 or Mad win the Summer Split, the top 4 in points will qualify. A reminder, all our Worlds participants will be decided in the season finals, so if you don't make season finals, you don't make Worlds. It sucks to be you. So let's take a look at where we're currently standing in terms of championship points. And you can see Fnatic, Team Heretics, and XL have definitely got an uphill battle. They need very strong finishes in summer to make the season finals. Goldborg, XL, it's particularly tough for them. 10 points right now.
Yeah, I mean, there is... I believe we had a meeting where we were going through the stats. I don't have the actual number for you guys, but there was one world where XL could still make it through by not winning. But let's be real, that comes down to so many other factors than just your own style of gameplay. For the bottom teams at this point in the league and this point in the tournament, you just have to win. It's not just that simple. You cannot lose. You need to win the split if you want to make the season finals.
Yeah, and it's going to be really tough when you're trying to catch up with other teams that are obviously making progress of their own. It's not like Mad Lions have got to the top and they're just going to stop. And yeah, I didn't mean that to rhyme. And also, I am slightly conveniently forgetting what happened at MSI, but they are going to be coming back into this hungry to remain where they stand.
Yeah, and I think that's why we see a lot of those bottom teams making big changes, right? XL have brought in Peach, you know, Fnatic have swapped out the bot lane. There's a lot of huge changes that are going on in these teams to try and hit that point. But I don't know, it feels like at this stage it's a case of shut up and put up. And if you don't hit the ground running, well, you've got nowhere else to go. Like, this is your last chance. You really have to make sure that you're hitting that and making that playoff, to the season championship. Otherwise, there's just nothing left for you.
Well, hopefully the players are listening to your wise wisdom there, Dagda, because the summer season is going to be played on patch 13.11. So let's run through the major changes and what to expect since we last saw our teams at MSI.
The LEC is back, and we're kicking things off with patch 13.11. So let's walk through the most important changes since we last saw the teams at MSI. First up, the reworked Ivan and Rel will be disabled for the first 3 weeks, but Milio on the other hand is ready to light some sparks in the bot lane. Milio's supportive kit perfectly enables hypercarries like Kog'Maw or Aphelios or Jinx or Lucian or pretty much anything.
スティールがボディブロック。さあ入っていったブランクに対してはアリアフラッシュで対応します。そしてダメージラッシャーが倒された。さあカウンターユタポンが固定放題となって。
His W, Cozy Campfire, extends your auto attack range by up to 20%, while his ultimate ability, Breath of Life, cleanses all crowd control on nearby allies and grants tenacity, and also heals for some reason.
Okay, there's the big engage. Whirling Death does so much work. Birtle has to get out of there, but Death still will get the cash in. Oh my goodness.
Besides Milio, the bot lane meta can be described as the more things change, the more they stay the same.
D+, are you going to lock away Zeri? And the answer is yes.
Okay, never mind. Aphelios is great. Even with the nerfs, we're still just wanting Aphelios.
In patch 13.10, we've seen a big overhaul on bot lane and support itemization though. Kraken Slayer and Immortal Shieldbow were bumped down to just being legendary items, with only Gale Force remaining from the 3 previous mythics. Infinity Edge is taking 1 mythic item spot, while we've also seen Trinity Force emerge as a big pickup for champions like Zeri or Draven. Looking at the support role, who of you remembers this item from back in the day? Right, Athene's Unholy Grail makes its return to League of Legends with the name Echoes of Helia, an item for aggressive enchanter supports to increase their heal and shield power after dealing damage. Is it a cannon minion? Is it a ward? Is it a Scryer's Bloom? No, it's Nico! This secret agent can now go into complete stealth mode thanks to an update to her passive, Inherent Glamour, which allows her to take the form of an allied champion or unit. LPL's 007 Yagao has shown us what Nico can do with her new gadgets.
Will it work? It will! And that's what you want to be seeing!
Always watch your surroundings and count your minions. Finally, there's also some fun for top laners around here. Yes, I know it's hard to believe. Teleport now unleashes at 10 minutes instead of 14, giving them earlier access to those Drake fights and bot lane skirmishes. I hope you're ready for some 5v5 action in bot lane at 10 minutes.
Double kill. Enemy double kill.
There's been a lot of changes since MSI, but how will it translate to the Rift? We'll see when the teams enter the stage. Thank you, though, very much for watching Patch Rundown. Wait, is that a blue buff dancing in my base?
You fell for it.
And thank you very much, Medic. Now, he doesn't talk about this in the video, for obvious reason, but it's his birthday today. So if you see Medic anywhere in the chat, wish him a happy birthday. Go to Twitter, wish him a happy birthday there as well. But despite the patch changes, let's be real, a lot of the things stayed the same as Medic already explained. But for the things that actually did change, Dagda, what are we looking at with some of the new support? We have Milio, there's Yuumi, and there's...
Yeah, I think it's the big 3 kind of looking at, as you can see behind me. You're looking at the Yuumi, the Milio, and the Nico. For bot lane, I think it's been influenced a lot by the fact that the minions have changed. The fact that mid lane and bot lane are now hitting at the same time means that, well, you're a lot safer in that bot lane, so you have the opportunity to go for this uber scaling. So we're seeing enchanters rise to the top, and Milio and Yuumi are absolutely insane at the moment. The fact that they can pair with so many different champions as well means that they've kind of risen as the creme de la creme.
Yeah, I think the minion tempo change is the big one for me because it will, in my mind, emphasize those who are good at the laning phase. Mid laners will be on their own, top laners on their own, and bot lane on their own. So before, maybe, if you're good at lane, you couldn't really show that because supports would be in your lane, or junglers, or mid laners running around. But now it's just going to be everyone in their own lane. So now I think you will really see who is actually good at laning.
Yeah, I think as well, also the reason why bot lane suddenly matters so much, just because like, oh, Blastcon timer suddenly nerfed as well, so you can't just come down there over the walls and have a gang. There's not so much room for roam timing, which is something the melee champions had over the enchanters. You could actually influence the map. As a pro player, Reckless, coming into these changes, do you think there's a lot to actually approach of new things, or is it just really coming back and playing the same game?
I think it's going to be a lot about just playing the same game and maybe chasing off the cat. If you ever see her on the rift, just chase her off.
But we have
get
Nico
her
now.
out of
We
there.
can get 2 of them.
Oh, please no. No, but I think it's a lot the same. It's just, like I said, small changes that might emphasize like more skill expression, just being able to show how good you actually are at the game. And I think it will do a lot, especially for mid lane, to be able to lane 1v1 for first time, maybe in forever.
It's going to be very interesting having a look at now. We are seeing more room for changes in our player rosters as well. We've got an entire inventory worth of players. So let's check on the tooltips and see the buffs or nerfs that our teams have equipped. Starting with Fnatic. Now,
Exactly.
Jack, it started with an idea. Your idea, more specifically.
Yeah, it started with me being obsessed with Diablo 4 and now leading into what is this. So I'm glad we kicked Reckless off of this because we're going to be talking about Fnatic's bot lane for the moment. I'm real sorry, mate. But
stay out of there.
I think we got to look at a couple of the big ones. And I think the big equipment changes they wanted to make was obviously coming into that bot side. What can we do to try and have a lane that we can play around? And looking at Noah coming in off of Zero Tenacity in the LEU Masters, he was looking absolutely fantastic when it came to actually winning his lane. The team around him wasn't really able to set him up for success, but when you look at just raw stats and numbers, he was looking fantastic coming out of that. So I think adding Noah into this is just going to give you a much more aggressive bot lane that you can look to try and play around, especially like we're seeing a lot in LP.
Yeah, I've heard that the win lane buff can grant you the win game buff as well. But there's also a support who has to be paired up with him. And like looking at the options here, that Trimby buff there is looking mighty interesting. What have we got here?
Yeah, when you're able to have a little bit of extra range added into your kit now, thanks to some of these changes in your equipment, it's going to make a big difference. If you swap from, you know, your Knives Assassin into your long range crossbow assassin, it works out pretty well. And I think this is where we're going to be looking to see it as well. Trimby coming in is going to add these enchanters to the bottom lane. It allows you to actually have a huge amount of that push. And I think this is where you're going to be able to pair that incredibly well with Noah to set up your winning lane incredibly well.
Well, this Fnatic does look very well equipped. Let's have a look at the next one. Let's have a look at Koi. Only one slot here. What are we looking at here, Dak? What are we getting?
Yeah, I think the big one to look at is going to be Advian coming in. And I think the one big thing that we looked at a lot with Koi was how their shot calling in the mid game was a little bit suspect. So now that they're going to be running a little bit of a different strategy, we're going to have to see if it's going to come out here where they can actually have some of these bigger advantages in the mid game, relying on Advian to do his thing. But it also lets you open up some of those melee supports as well, which may not work on the initial 3 weeks. But if we are going to get those changes to enchanters coming through, could work out very well for groups of playoffs.
Yeah, it is definitely something that's going to be interesting to track right now. For now, I still think we're expecting to see him try and go on the enchanters, so we'll see how that works. But now, another team we have here with multiple changes. Team of Heretics, what are we looking at?
Yeah, they decided to go dual wielding in this one. They wanted to upgrade both their mid and also looking at that bot side as well. And the first person we're really going to be looking at is going to be Video coming into this one. And I think the big one for Video, when you look at him comparison
to more champions unlocked?
Yeah, because Ruby only kind of had his ear.
Right, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm back off. That's
a few more options to the pool. I think that's going to be the big one coming into this, is having that strong mid jungle for Heretics. I think is going to be the core identity for this squad, and the big one that I'm going to be looking at coming into this.
Yeah, cool. So let's add videos to the slot as well. And then I hear we have an AD carry as well that we do need to add as well. And for FLICKR, extreme buff to come into this one. You get a dock with the passage. But of
you get a companion.
Wow. Amazing. We love that in video games. We've even got the jungle camps. Now we get Doc as well coming through. But obviously FLICKR in the URL era, in the split that he had, played phenomenally. And despite them not achieving the results they really wanted with Lost Heretics, he played amazing, and specifically towards the later stages where he was that reliable AD carry. It's his champion pool. It's definitely something to look forward to see if he can turn over a new leaf for Team Heretics.
And speaking of, well, at least a known quantity, we're actually going to swap over to a little bit of an unknown quantity when we look towards Excel, because Peach, unfortunately, data's not found. We don't know a huge amount about this guy. We've seen him in MIA Masters. We want to see what he can do on the main stage as well. But I think the big one going to be looking at this is if he can slot into Excel and try and play more for the lanes, try and set them up for success. Because a huge amount of the time we saw with Xerxes, he wasn't quite in the right place at the right time, and that led to a lot of issues coming through there. So that's going to be my big focus here for Peach.
Well, amazing inventory check, Dacta. Thank you very much. Now, one team with no changes is the Mad Lions, who are facing Team Vitality in our opening match of Summer. So let's hear from the head coach Mac ahead of the game.
Thank you very much, Gullborg. Mac, thank you so much also for joining me on this interview. Now, since it's the first interview of the split, I want to ease you in and ask you, how has your off-season been, your off time?
Good. I'd say it's been pretty productive. I mean, I spent lots of time with family and loved ones and made sure to rest. And I always try to kind of get some time in nature and disconnect a bit. But all of the staff at Mad Lions also spent a lot of time watching MSI and trying to take everything that we could away from it in terms of watching what JDG is doing, watching what BLG is doing, watching what the Asian teams are doing in general, and like making sure that we're coming into the split ready. So yeah, productive.
Okay, so refreshed, came back productive. Now, I'm going to throw you into the deep end a little bit, and I want to bring up a tweet of yours right after MSI where you said, it starts with team culture and it ends with me, my responsibilities, my shortcomings. What have been the reflections after that one?
Yeah, so I guess further on that tweet, I think the sentiment there is that as the head coach, everything that happens at Mad Lions is my responsibility, right? And I think that the most productive way that I can possibly see things is, well, if the team didn't perform well, I would rather look at what I'm doing wrong, you know? And I think the ultimate responsibility, like one of the most important responsibilities of the head coach is to define the team culture. And specifically what I was referring to there was our practice culture. And I think, you know, our team has been very up and down over the course of the year. That's no secret. And one of the big things that we've struggled with is having consistent and disciplined practice, right? And that was something that, you know, coming into MSI, we tried our best to replicate as much as we possibly could from our successful playoffs run into MSI. And I think a lot of things we did okay. The big thing that we failed on, that I'm disappointed in myself for, is that our practice culture just wasn't good enough and our standards weren't high enough and we didn't push hard enough. We weren't optimistic enough. We weren't confident enough. We weren't prepared enough coming into the day just because of, like, we had poor quality practice, right? And then it becomes really difficult to make well-informed decisions with poor information, right? So that's the big takeaway for me.
Oh, okay. And digging into this a little bit more, what has been sort of the way that you approach as a coach issues like this to try and solve them? Because we know that Mad Lions is a pretty fun team. You guys laugh, you guys sing, you guys do the dance at the start. But when something like this happens, I guess the atmosphere is not as fun and happy as we usually see. So how do you approach that?
Of course. I mean, and you know, it's, I would say, certainly shaken our confidence a bit, which is normal after something like that. You know, fun is a really core part of our culture, and that was a big part of our run during playoffs, was actually spending time together and enjoying each other's company, enjoying playing the game and learning together. The other thing in terms of dealing with things like this that is a big part of our culture is, in terms of our coaching culture, is a very athlete-centric approach, right? So we will always try to find the best way for each individual to learn and take away from those things, and that might be really different for different people. So really it comes down to the individual player and what they need at the moment, what they need to hear, how they need to hear it, and how they best then go and absorb information, right? Finding like the best resources for them to be able to learn from these things. And that can be from anywhere, you know, you can draw inspiration from anywhere. It can be from traditional sports. It can be from reading books. It can be from looking at other League of Legends teams. It can be from literally anywhere in life that people are trying to push themselves to be better. You can learn from that. So that's kind of the big thing that we're trying to do, and really trying to raise the standard individually and put, you know, the onus and the accountability on each other to come into summer more prepared than we were in spring and in winter.
And I think a lot of your fans cannot wait to see you succeed. Mac, thank you so much for this interview. I wish you best of luck in the split and, of course, in your first game. And Frankie, back to you.
Thank you very much, Trouble. Thank you very much, Mac, as well. I really appreciate the honest words there. Mac is obviously talking a lot about improving the team culture, but actually he's got an uphill battle at the moment because, as you were saying earlier, this meta is focused so much on the individual laners. But when you look at Mad Lions and their players, you don't necessarily associate all of them with wanting to stay in lane.
Not necessarily, no. And I feel like they're kind of being dealt a bad hand here with the meta as well, because to me, a strong point of them was chasing the top lane. And it feels so much now that it's going to be the better AD carry. And today they're facing Upset, which is one of the best, maybe the best we have here. So it's going to be tough for them to, I think, match the meta in a way today.
Yeah, I definitely agree in that regard. But it's not like Kasi didn't show up towards the end of it, so I'm really curious to see what they're going to look like. Both Hilly and Kasi had good laning phase performances at MSI in that regard. But of course, you are looking at Upset down towards that bottom lane together with Kaiser to actually achieve something as well. And specifically, them being played around by their team. Because for Vitality, the story was not so much laning phase and the quality of their players. That was the question. It was, how good is this team? Whereas it didn't always perform as 5 members.
Yeah, this team should really perform well in this meta, but there are definitely some questions about how to get the most from the players. Upset, this is his playground now. He wants the resource from the team. He is very confident. He's going to be calling the shots in game. But then when you look towards the top side of the map, there is the question of what do you do with Bo? Because we've seen him be so comfortable in those carries, but that's not necessarily what we need from him this split.
I think sadly you don't really have a choice because he's just been too much miss on the facilitating junglers and too much hit on the carry junglers. So I think you just have to put him on a carry jungle and you have to play Upset as a hyper carry because those two players work that way. And then it's up to Perks to be the glue. I hope he realizes for himself, but if he doesn't, I hope he watches this because I think he has a really important part in that team building to be the glue for his jungle and for his bot lane.
He used to be called the GOAT. Now they call him the glue.
I don't know if he's going to be happy about that one. But Perks is a very mature player. I've been looking, I guess, at some of the big name players in the LEC recently and wondering, are some of these players moving from being superstars now to being veterans and how are they easing into that transition? Do you think that Perks is going to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think he's already shown last split that he was willing to try different stuff as well, at least in the start of the split, where he was playing a lot of roamers, he was playing the Annies, he was playing the Lissandras. But once again, I don't think it really came down to just the champions in that essence. It comes down to how you integrate yourself as a player, how your voice is in a team environment as well. And I think specifically the bow point as well. I was a bit disappointing in him on the facilitators when he was playing it. You saw it on the kill participation. He was 8th. So I agree with your point, Martin, as well. Like either you have to put him on the carries, or you have to just acknowledge that we hope we have used the time we spent where the other teams are playing international, where we have now practiced that Bo can play more of a facilitator and all of us together can play as a team.
Before we start the 2023 LEC Summer Split, we wanted to take a moment to remember a player that sadly passed away in recent weeks, Karel Twiston Assenbrenner. Twiston competed for Team Vitality's Valorant team, and his loss is one that reverberated around the esports community and impacted many fans and players in our league. We ask that you join the Team Vitality players and us in pausing for a moment's silence to commemorate his life.